Welcome back to Soccer AI GOAT Podcast. Get ready for tactical insights, strategy performances, what-if scenarios. Let's kick off. I'm Jake.
And I'm Sophia.
All right, so Sophia, today we're diving deep into a potential transfer that, honestly feels like it could, tilt the whole axis of European football.
Yeah.
We're talking Trent Alexander-Arnold from Liverpool to Real Madrid.
Yeah, that's the rumor that's out there right now. And
Yeah.
for you, the listener, the real question we're going to try to unpack is this a tactical masterstroke that pushes Real Madrid, to this legendary level? Or could this completely backfire and turn into this defensive disaster? That's what we've been analyzing. And I got to tell you, there are some fascinating things to think about here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, forget all the usual transfer gossip. We're going beyond that. We're looking at the real strategic stuff.
Yeah.
And our analysis shows some really interesting possibilities, but also some big potential problems. So I guess the first thing we need to talk about is what makes Alexander-Arnold such a unique player in the first place.
Right. I think the best way to explain it is how Trent Alexander-Arnold has basically changed what it means to be a fullback, especially at Liverpool. We're not just talking about someone who stops crosses. He's like a primary creative force, like a real playmaker from out wide. And he's always a huge threat on set pieces, too. He's completely changed what we expect from that traditionally defensive position.
Yeah, it's like he's got like a midfielder's brain in a fullback's body. You know what I mean? We see it all the time. Those pinpoint passes from deep that just slice open defenses. It's not just about getting the ball out wide. It's about creating those goal-scoring chances with these killer passes that kickstart so many Liverpool attacks.
Exactly. And what's even more interesting, I think, is how those moments of individual brilliance that you're talking about, like those amazing crossfield passes, they're actually closely connected to how Liverpool play as a whole. They often trigger these really specific pressing traps that target the opposition's weaknesses. It's really clever. He's got this double role. On the one hand, he's providing width and making those overlapping runs that we see all the time, but he's also kind of like a deep-lying quarterback, dictating the pace of the game with his passing.
Yeah, and when you consider how high-energy Liverpool's style is, his movement becomes even more important. He's never just standing still. He's always looking for space. And that's crucial for their counter-pressing, that thing where they immediately try to win the ball back high up the field right after they lose it. It lets them switch from defense to attack so quickly. It's crazy.
And speaking of Liverpool, it's interesting that Arne Slot recently talked about Trent. He pointed out some really insightful stuff about him as a player and his mindset.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I remember that. Slot talked about three main things: Trent's mental toughness, his ambition, and his amazing discipline. He was basically saying that Trent obviously wants to be the best right back in the world, but he's always thinking about the team first. That gives you a real glimpse into his character.
So we've got this picture of this incredibly inventive fullback, right? But let's look at the data. What do the actual numbers from this past season tell us about his impact? 2024, 25,
Yeah, let's crunch some numbers and see if they match up with his reputation.
Well, when we look at his stats from 2024-25, it really highlights how important he is as a playmaker. His expected assists and progressive passes are both really high, which tells us he's great at setting up goals and moving the ball into dangerous areas. He's already got 64 Premier League assists, which is a crazy number for a fullback. And he had 63 key passes just this last season. That's almost 2 per game.
Whoa, those are like midfielder-level stats.
Yeah.
What about his crossing, though? That's got to be a big part of his attacking game, right?
Yeah, so his Champions League crossing accuracy is around 11%. But we've noticed that this stat doesn't really tell the whole story. Even when his crosses don't perfectly find a teammate, they still force defenses to spread out, which opens up space in other areas for Liverpool to exploit. And when he does connect, those crosses can be deadly. It's not just about how many he completes, it's about the threat he poses every time he's got the ball out wide.
Right, so it's like the fear factor is hard to measure. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And what about his overall passing? The short stuff, the long stuff.
His passing accuracy in general is around 78%. And get this, he made almost 2,000 passes last season. That kind of volume and consistency are super important for how Liverpool like to transition from defense to attack. They want to move the ball forward quickly and accurately to get it to those dangerous attackers. You can think of his passes like the spark that ignites their lightning-fast counterattacks.
And defensively, that's where he gets criticized the most, right?
Yeah. So he had 85 tackles and 41 interceptions. Now, when you consider how attacking his role is, that's actually pretty efficient. It shows he's not afraid to do the dirty work defensively. Plus, his work rate and athleticism are undeniable. He runs about 6.5 kilometers per match in European competition, and he's been clocked at top speeds over 34 kilometers per hour. You need that kind of engine to be a modern fullback, constantly running up and down the wing.
So whether you look at his creativity or his athleticism,
Yeah.
the numbers definitely show he's a really dynamic player. I can see why people compare him to some of the best players in history.
Exactly. And actually, our analysis has found some interesting similarities between Alexander-Arnold's strengths in attack and the skills of legendary players like David Beckham and Kevin De Bruyne.
Whoa. Beckham and De Bruyne. Those are some huge names. What are the main things you see there?
Well, with Beckham, it's the incredible crossing ability, the amazing vision for a long pass, and that beautiful technique he has on his long balls. Even Beckham himself has said that he sees similarities in their ability to deliver those perfect passes from out wide. And then when you look at De Bruyne, the comparisons are about Trent's intelligence as a playmaker. His passing range is unreal, both short and long, and he can really control attacks from deeper positions, almost like a central midfielder who just happens to be starting out on the right.
Yeah, it's wild. It's like he's a hybrid player.
Yeah.
A right back, but with the skills of a central playmaker.
Right. So his position might say defender, but the way he plays and the way he impacts the game are more like those midfield maestros. It's this unique combination that makes him such an exciting and potentially game-changing player.
But for all the attacking brilliance and the impressive stats, there are definitely some questions about his defense, right?
Yeah, that's a really important part of this whole discussion.
Yeah.
And our analysis has shown there are some valid criticisms of his defensive game. He's obviously incredible in attack, and that often overshadows everything else. But that attacking mindset can sometimes mean there are gaps in his defensive positioning. Sometimes it looks like he's not urgent enough about tracking back when his team loses the ball, and that can leave space behind him for opponents to take advantage of.
Yeah, haven't we seen that in some big games? Moments where he's been caught too far forward and Liverpool have been left exposed?
Oh, absolutely. His defensive weaknesses have been pretty clear in some important matches. People often point to the game against Jeremy Doku of Manchester City. Doku's speed and directness caused a lot of trouble in that space that Alexander-Arnold sometimes leaves behind when he's pushing forward. When he commits to attacking like that, it can leave some big defensive gaps, and top teams will definitely try to exploit that.
So if he does move to Real Madrid, they're going to have to find a way to deal with those weaknesses, right?
Yeah. If they want to be successful with him, they'll probably need to make some tactical changes. They might have to provide more defensive cover on that right side. Maybe a midfielder drops in, or the right-sided center back takes on more responsibility. And he'll need to improve his own positioning and be quicker about getting back when his team loses the ball. It's about finding that balance between his attacking brilliance and his defensive responsibilities.
Okay, so the big question then. Trent Alexander-Arnold wearing the white of Real Madrid. What are the exciting possibilities? And what are the challenges that stand out right away?
Well, offensively, the potential is huge. Just imagine his crossing and those through balls finding players like Rodrigo and Vinicius Jr. Their pace and skills combined with his passes could really stretch defenses in La Liga. And a lot of teams in Spain sit back, which could create a ton of chances for Real Madrid that they don't have right now from their right back.
And defensively, how could they set up to give him the support he needs?
Federico Valverde could be a key player here. His work rate is insane, and he's tactically really smart. He could drop into that right back or right wing back space when Alexander-Arnold goes forward and basically act as a safety net. It'll also be super important for him to have a good understanding with the center backs, probably Eder Militao and Antonio Rudiger. They'll need to be able to cover the spaces he leaves when he joins the attack.
Feels like the manager's tactics would make a big difference, wouldn't they?
Oh, definitely. From what we've seen, someone like Carlo Ancelotti, who's known for being adaptable and kind of pragmatic with his formations, could definitely find a way to make it work. Ancelotti has always been good at maximizing his players' attacking talents while still having a solid defensive structure, but ultimately, whether it works or not will depend on how the team plays together and those tactical adjustments we talked about.
And there's that interesting what-if scenario we've been looking at, one that involves someone Liverpool fans know very well.
Yeah. What if Xabi Alonso becomes the manager at Real Madrid sometime soon? It's definitely something to think about. If that happens, we think Alexander-Arnold could fit perfectly into Alonso's preferred 3-4-2-1 formation as a right wing back.
How would that help him?
Well, in that system, he'd be able to move inside more and control the game from out wide. Plus, he's got the work rate and the pressing intelligence that he developed under Klopp, which would fit perfectly with Alonso's high-intensity counter-pressing style. He might still need to work on his defensive discipline, though, because Alonso's defensive structure can be more rigid. But overall, his unique blend of creativity and athleticism would probably thrive in that system. Alonso really emphasizes fluid movement and exploiting spaces between the lines.
So the manager could change everything in this whole transfer. But even without thinking about future managers, the big question remains, would Trent Alexander-Arnold really succeed at Real Madrid right now?
Based on our analysis, we think his attacking skills would definitely bring something new to Real Madrid and make their attack even better. But the question about his defensive consistency at the highest level is a real concern. They'd have to address that somehow.
And it's not all about tactics on the field, is it? There are other things to consider.
Right. Adapting to La Liga is big. It's very different from the Premier League in terms of pace and defensive styles. He'll need to improve his defense, like we've said. And then there's also the whole cultural thing, moving to a new country, learning a new language, adapting to a new footballing environment. It's a lot. But having someone like Jude Bellingham already there could really help him settle in.
It's a move that's sparking a lot of debate among fans and analysts.
Yeah, totally. And it brings up some big questions like, can Alexander-Arnold adapt to La Liga without the same support system and familiar faces he has at Liverpool? He's been there for so long.
And maybe even more importantly, is his defense just too much of a weakness to risk, especially against the amazing wingers in the Liga and the Champions League?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
actically speaking, would Ancelotti or whoever the manager is have to completely change how Real Madrid play on that right side to make room for Alexander-Arnold, to cover for his defensive tendencies?
And I guess the biggest question of all is, does his incredible playmaking ability outweigh any risks they might have to take defensively to fit him in?
Yeah.
These are the kind of tough decisions top clubs have to make when they're looking at these potentially game-changing signings.
Those are all really good points. It shows how complicated and high stakes this potential transfer is. There aren't any easy answers, and the outcome could go either way depending on a lot of different things.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the main takeaway you want our listeners to have about the possibility of Trent Alexander-Arnold leaving Anfield for the Bernabeu?
Well, our analysis shows that he's definitely got the talent and the vision to be successful at a club like Real Madrid. But to really make it in Spain, he'll need to be adaptable, not just tactically on the pitch, but also defensively, culturally, and personally. It's a really interesting example of how the traditional roles of players are changing in modern football.
Yeah, no doubt. It could be a genius move that unlocks a whole new level of attacking power for Real Madrid,
Yeah.
or it could be a huge gamble that blows up in their face because of defensive weaknesses. Only time will tell.
It's one of those transfers that keeps everyone talking and makes us all want to see how it plays out. It's what makes football so great.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we had for this deep dive into what could be a massive transfer.
It's been fun to explore all of this.
Subscribe to the AI GOAT podcast for more epic soccer deep dives. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
And one last thought to leave you with. Attacking fullbacks are becoming so crucial to the modern game. What changes do you think we'll see in how teams defend and how young defenders are trained in the future? Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear your ideas.